imagine this industry without Michael. So, but I had to mention how I got here. And as moderator for this panel, it had everything to do with Michael and getting me involved locally with the labs, with the state on standards. And my company, what I do a couple different things. I'm a consultant. I help companies be better at what they do if they want help. And I also work with plant tissue culture, and that's a form of propagation, eradicating diseases from hemp and cannabis. And I also sell hemp young plants around the country. And so I am no longer affiliated with C4, but I think it's also important to put out that I am formerly of C4. But I also got a lot of my experience on the state testing, and obviously played a part along with C4 in getting Arizona some standards. So I'm really grateful to be here today and see if we can't have a very good, healthy discussion.
Yeah, maybe we can also talk a little bit about the history of how testing came about in Arizona from the beginning, from 2011, 12 up until now. But actually, when you come up, Steve Cottrell, you actually know more about this than I do. If you want to bring that up and talk about the history for a couple of minutes, you can. But we'll wait to give you a second to prepare, and we'll get to that in a second. Real quickly, you can see I put my cell phone number up there. I'm all about transparency. I'm all about accessibility. I wear my heart on my sleeve. If you're out there watching this and you want to text me, if you want some information, I got my cell phone right here. I'll be viewing it as Hope does her thing, so you can get in touch with me. To the panelists, I would suggest putting your email contact info or your website on renaming on your screen so that people know how to get in touch with you as well. But let's get right into our panelists and introduce them. Let's start with our title sponsor for the event, one of the biggest labs in Arizona, Ryan Tracy. Please introduce yourself to the public.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dimitri. As you said, my name is Ryan Tracy. I am the founder and CEO for C4 Laboratories. We are an analytical laboratory now, recently relocated up into Scottsdale. We just recently moved into a 5,000 square foot, fully renovated, fully remodeled and built out laboratory to prepare to better serve our clients as we rapidly approach that November 1st start date of mandated testing. C4 just celebrated its 5-year anniversary in the beginning of June. So now we've been slugging away for about 5 years. Very proud of that fact. And as Hope kind of alluded to earlier, C4 and multiple representatives that have been with and are currently with or may have been with us in the past have all participated in really advocating for the patient and advocating for safety and potency testing here in the cannabis or in the Arizona cannabis market. We failed for a couple of years in a row. And then finally last year, we were able to be successful to bring a better peace of mind for the patients in Arizona. And then to really help make sure that we're solidifying our foundation as we grow medically, and then into where we get into the smart and safe and recreational initiative to make sure we have, some really good cornerstones laid for that program. So very excited to say that certainly the last year has been monumental from a preparation standpoint to be ready for Senate Bill 1494 to become law on November 1st. We've been working hand in hand with the Department of Health Services. George Griffith with Level 1 Labs and myself co-founded the Arizona Cannabis Laboratory Association last year during our legislative efforts for Senate Bill 1494, and have continued to try to bring more laboratories into a very collaborative and forward-thinking environment to where we are focused on serving the industry and its patients first and foremost, and to make sure that we can be a partner to all of our clients that are out there to make sure that they have the ability to serve essential medicine to their patients throughout the state. So we're very proud to have been very active for the last 5 years in these efforts, and to now be at the, the home stretch of achieving some of these long-term goals and getting to better protect the patients is something I'm incredibly excited for, and incredibly excited to have the opportunity to speak on the panel this evening about.
Thank you, Ryan Tracy. Thank you for your advocacy. You're a passionate member of this industry. It's fantastic. You fill those 2 minutes really, really well. let's move on to Mark Steinmetz from Nature's Medicine. Mark, thank you again for joining us.
Thank you, Dimitri. For those of you that don't know me, I'm the founder of Nature's Medicine's dispensary now in Glendale, just north of Northern on Grand Avenue and 67th. Also on just off the I-17 on West McDowell, been there a long time. We just are opening a kitchen, just had it inspected, and we should have product rolling out soon under the brand Reefer Gladness. That we're looking forward to that. It's been a long time in the making. We'll be offering the usual fare. Most proud of our cookies, brownies, gummies. They're amazing tasting, and they are made with a bioavailable oil, which helps with quick absorption. And I think they'll pack a punch for the milligrams that we'll be offering. Also, part of our brand group is Phoenix Cannabis Company, flower and concentrates, which is made behind our facility in Phoenix. It's handcrafted, small batch, but high potency, high quality, top shelf product. And then we also have a couple of brands coming out of our greenhouse complex, Organiwana, Cannabis with a Conscious, made with organic inputs and sustainably grown techniques. And then, Nature's brand of flower and concentrates, which offer incredible value in cannabis. And we've led the market on pricing and quality, we think, with those brands. We're here to talk about testing today, and I'll just throw a few thoughts out there. I think I speak a little bit for the industry of dispensaries when I say that many of us have been testing flower for a long time. Nature's Medicine since 2013. Steve Cotterell next to me on this panel can attest to the fact that we've been a consistent tester of our products for a long, long time, long before we were growing them, and then we started growing them in 14 and 15. A great deal as well as we developed our products. And we've been pretty consistent. When you walk in to our stores, you'll see a menu and you'll see a score for that specific flower. Not just for the best flower of all time that we've ever grown in that strain, but usually for that particular batch. And we think testing is long overdue for the industry. We've supported it through the Arizona Dispensary Association. They I think it's a misconception that we were fighting this. We were fighting some versions of it, but we were happy and got behind the last version of the legislation, and we're happy to see it pass. We are looking forward to it coming online. We do have some concerns that we'll talk about today, and I think first among them is readiness. We don't want to see a bottleneck take place in the industry, as we've seen happen in many other states that went from no testing to having a testing mandate. That would not be good for the patients. It wouldn't be good for the dispensaries. It just wouldn't be good. If only a small amount of product can get through, the laws of supply and demand will kick in, and you'll see some prices going up just because you won't be able to get product, and we don't want to see that happen. So I'm sure we'll talk about that today. That's a first concern of ours. But the bottom line is the dispensaries promote patient safety at all levels and fully support reasonable testing standards. And we are looking forward to having some of the issues that are before us here worked out. Patient safety is job one for all of us. But we also know that patients are price sensitive, so this is also a big concern. If the MMJ, again, supply is restricted due to testing bottlenecks, approved product will be scarce and prices for producers will no doubt spike. But we're ready as a dispensary group to start, testing now. Again, most of us have been testing at some level already, but we haven't had all 5, testing areas available to us. We've been, testing most commonly for, cannabinoids, often terpenes, mold tests. We virtually test every batch for mold and screen it. But the heavy metals are hard to get tested. Pesticide screens can be done. There's like 17 most common pesticides that we often screen for. So we've been keeping an eye on these things anyway. Anyway, we have a few concerns about the industry. Yeah. I'm sure we'll talk about it later. Thank you.
No, we'll get to all that, Mark. And by the way, I'm a little playful. Everybody knows I like to have fun. Mark, you look good. That black shirt, you look younger. I've known you for 8 years now. You're looking good in that black shirt. Good choice. Let's move on to George. George, it's been a pleasure getting to know you. I know you're a fellow attorney and now in the industry. But let's share with the audience who you are.
Thank you, Dimitri. It's good to be with you. I appreciate the opportunity to be on this panel and to talk with everybody. I am one of the founders and the CEO of Level 1 Labs. We're located in South Scottsdale. I was lucky enough to start this lab with my oldest son, Connor, and now get to work with my youngest son, Brian. We are a family-owned, Arizona-based MJ company, and we're proud of it. We're happy to be in this space. I was hoping you wouldn't tell everyone I was an attorney, but I did spend the last 25 years litigating in this town. I couldn't do that anymore mentally. I'm still an active member of the Arizona Bar, but I do not practice, and I'm thrilled to be in this space. As Ryan mentioned, we played a hand in starting the Cannabis Lab Association here in Arizona. When Level 1 got to the space, there was no lab association that had survived. There had been efforts that had fallen short. We got that started. We did the work on SB 1494, and as an industry now, we're gearing up to handle the volume. Level 1 has tripled its lab space. We've added redundancy with every test that we do. We're working night and day to get ready, and I have polled the 14, DHS gave me a list of the 14 labs that are vying for licensure in some level or another here in this state. I've spoken with all of those people, and I feel good about where we're at as an industry. I share a lot of Mark's concerns that he just listed. It is all about patient protection and public health for us. And I think everybody in this space is cognizant and aware of those duties. And we look forward to providing safe medicine for Arizona's, nigh on to 250,000 patients now.
Yeah, and there's going to be a lot more when it becomes adult use.
Yeah.
George, what's the website for the Arizona Lab Association?
The Arizona Cannabis Lab Association website is www.acla.world, acla.world.
Okay, cool. I'm going to save Steve Cottrell for last because he's going to give us a little bit about the history, hopefully. Thomas from Bake Bros, how are you guys doing over there?
Good. Thank you, Dimitri. Appreciate you allowing me to be a part of this very important conversation. I am Thomas Rimbach, the CEO and co-founder of Baked Bros Edibles. Baked Bros has been testing for a very long time. I know Steve's been shot out a couple of times, but I remember when we were testing with him when he first opened up his his testing facility in 2013.
Steve is the OG of testing.
The OG. So currently we are the only edible company that makes it possible for patients and the dispensary to have test results available online. And I don't just mean test results for, at all. We do every single batch we test, not just the starting material or one gummy out of 1,000 gummies. We test every micro batch. To give you an idea of what we've tested, just this year alone, we've tested 1,100 batches. And since we've been in the dispensaries, we've tested over 7,200 batches. And at Bake Bros, we think that all cannabis products should be held to that standard. And now they will, thanks to so many people's hard work and dedication. That's why we are so grateful for everyone that was a part of making this testing bill successful. For those that are not familiar with the, passing laws, it is very, very difficult. And kind of what Ryan was saying was lots of failures. And like what we like to say is never a failure, always a lesson. And what, really it's just for those that we just believe that the selfless hard work and dedication from those that made this a reality kind of goes unnoticed and taken for granted by a lot of people. So I just want to say thank you to everyone that put that work into that and where we're at now. And I'm honored to be a part of this conversation.
And did anybody notice our new fading lights behind here? This is pretty exciting stuff. We're like all high tech. I mean, yeah. Mark, you're a former broadcaster. You should appreciate this. Let's move on to Maxine. And Maxine, you are one of my favorite people in this industry because you've built from the ground up many organizations with your application expertise, and now you guys are consultants going into the laboratory space. Please explain a little bit about your past and how you're related to testing.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for that introduction, and thank you for the opportunity to speak on today's panel. My name is Maxime, and I'm with Cannabis Business Advisors, or CB Advisors for short. We are a cannabis business consulting firm. We participate in any market that have a cannabis program right now, and we specialize in securing licenses for cannabis businesses, and have been pretty successful in that venture over the past 6-10 years. And then, naturally we progress into more opening and operating facilities, or at least helping our clients do that in multiple states. And so ever-changing regulations in this industry and applying that to your current operations is something that we're not unfamiliar with. And so anytime that there's a program that, like the testing program, that allows us to work in our home state where we have friends and operators that we're really familiar with, we're really excited to do that. And so making sure that we are able to consult on how to implement the new testing guidelines within your entire operations, and not just in one particular area, but anywhere from packaging and labeling to your trickle down to your cost and training, is something that we have been helping clients do in this space, particular for the new testing program. And so we look forward to continuing to work in our home state.
Well, thank you very much, Maxine. I love having you here.
Yeah.
What was it? So we got Sam, but Sam is there or not there? I haven't seen it visually yet. Sam.
Hey.
Hello,
everybody.
I love the mobile aspect of this virtual reality.
That's right. We're in the real world. Great to be here, and look forward to the conversation tonight. A lot more educated experts on the panel. So I'll be very brief in my introduction and just say that as the executive director of the association, very grateful that we had the opportunity to support the final version of Senate Bill 1494 that was signed into law. Was very active as a part of the rulemaking process throughout that, and also grateful that mandatory testing is a part of the Smart and Safe Act, which 420,000 signatures were just filed for last week to qualify that measure for the ballot. So very much looking forward to
a little round of applause for the efforts of the ADA.
Yeah.
You guys got 420,000 signatures for Smart and Safe. That's incredible.
That's right. So we will look forward to the conversation and participating where appropriate, but you have some fantastic members of the association here on board, in Mark Steinmetz with Natures, and of course, Steve Cottrell with Curaleaf. And I will say, just on a personal note, that I would totally pick up an eighth of Cottrell OG if it was on the shelf. So with that, I'll kick it back to you, Dimitri. Thanks.
Yeah, I like this. I like this look for you. It's good. Save the best for last, because Steve Cottrell is also, and was also, the MITA representative to the testing committee, the people who designed everything, and he can explain a little bit more about what the testing is. So, and MITA specifically tries to strike a balance as we help develop this industry, as we all help develop this industry. And we specifically picked Steve because of experience with cultivation and testing and dispensaries and caregivers and patients. Just, since 2010, you might have even helped write the AMMA for all I know, but I know you've been involved since the beginning here in Arizona. So we are honored to have you in that position. And if you want to introduce yourself, thank you, Steve Cottrell, for joining us.
Thank you, Dimitri. Good afternoon, everybody. Cottrell, both work. I want to thank Dimitri first off for creating the MITA, the Marijuana Industry Trade Association. It's a great industry. It's a great trade association that speaks to and involves everybody within the industry. So I want to thank you for continuing to guide this and showing your passion toward this industry. It's been a great thing to have somebody like yourself helping us with this. So thank you very much. I started this industry. I started this industry in 2010 as a testing laboratory. Monday morning after they announced on a Saturday that medical marijuana was going to be legal in the state of Arizona, I snuck up to the third floor of the AZDH office, and I was sitting at Will Humble's office that morning at 8 a.m., only to be thrown out of the office by two security guards where they said, "We don't know anything about this yet. We don't even know about this yet." So that's how I started in the industry, really, and introduced myself to the AZDHS. So it's been quite enjoyable since then, because I've become friends, confidants, and partners with the department since then. We have experienced all sorts of things since 2010 with Governor Jan Brewer stopping the industry in its tracks And at that point, both my partner and I, we had already built out a laboratory. We had all of our equipment. We had everything ready to go. And then the governor said, not so fast, we're going to stop. That's where I met people like Thomas and many others in this industry, where they were just manufacturing products behind the scenes as caregivers and patients, because at that time, no dispensaries were allowed. So everybody was allowed to cultivate. So that was a enjoyable time. I collected more samples behind 7-Elevens and dark alleys than I care to remember. It contributed to a lot of the gray hair on my head. So once dispensaries opened up at the end of 2012, it was an enjoyable experience to actually walk into a legitimate business and really be able to show my patient card, get it from their patient card as a patient-to-patient transfer, and begin the process of testing for this industry and building this industry in this marketplace, which was a lot of fun. I stayed in this industry, the testing industry, till 2014, had 2 tries at the legislature to start a testing law. And I was quickly thrown out of there because back in those days, in 2012 and 13, they said, if we legitimize testing, if we do a testing law, that legitimizes this medicine. So, and Will Humble at one point said to me, Steve, everything I read about on your website and all the collateral that you put out says nobody was ever killed by marijuana. So why do we need testing? So we've come a long way since then. And I always remind Will when I see him of that conversation. So
you and I walked those halls together, Steve.
I'm sorry?
I was there with you in those halls back in 2013-14.
Yes. It was quite an uphill battle. I was absolutely thrilled to see this law come to fruition. And to be appointed to this committee as well by MITA to sit on the board next to Hope and George Griffith on the other side of me was a thrill. It was a great, it was nice to be part of designing the rules and setting the precedents for the state. You know, we have a really, really neat rules package in the state of Arizona. We've picked and choose different laws from different states. And I think Arizona, which is already the best medical marijuana program in the country, is going to have the best testing program in the country as well. So I can't say enough good things about what we're about ready to embark onto come November. It's going to be exciting to see. You know, today I run one of the largest dispensary companies in the state of Arizona, Curaleaf, and it's been an absolute thrill working with all of my peers and everybody in the industry continually and seeing everybody grow to what they've become in this industry. Curaleaf has 8 locations around the valley. We soon will have more with all that we can do. And we're having a lot of fun here. So I really, I think we're all very lucky to be in an industry that in this time of pandemic and everything, we are still federally illegal, yet we are essential. And let that sink in. That's exciting. Yeah, that's pretty exciting for all of us that we are federally illegal, yet the governor and everybody has said we are an essential business. That is, if the writing's not on the wall there, I don't know what is. So it's really going to be an exciting time ahead of us for all of us in this industry. I look forward to seeing what we all become here in Arizona, watching people like Thomas, watching people like Mark. I was sitting in the room the day Mark Steinmetz won his 2 licenses, sitting right beside him. He didn't know me from Adam. And he won those 2 licenses, and that was pretty awesome to see. So it's been a fun road. I look forward to continuing to build this industry with all of you. So thanks for the introduction. Yeah. I look forward to working with everybody.
Yeah, so Steve, we're honored to have you as well. And thank you for representing us over at the DHS. So let's real quickly, somebody just commented from the panels. It's great to see all these companies standing up for transparency and testing, and showing such leadership, which I think is a nice compliment to everybody here. Okay, so we're going to change the format a little bit today. Usually we set an agenda beforehand, but we had hundreds of questions submitted by 300 to 400 individuals who RSVP'd. They don't all show up, but that's okay. They all submit questions. So Hope, in her expertise, has categorized them, compartmentalized them. She's going to be asking the questions to different members of the panel. And then after one of the panel members answers, the rest can chime in about that subject or, take it off to a different subject.
Hey, Dimitri, did Thomas get a chance to introduce him and Bake Bros?
Yes.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
Did we get that?
Ryan.
Kicking in now, Ryan, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
I said it's kicking in now, isn't it?
That 500 milligram edible?
No, I wouldn't be able to speak if I was on a 500 milligram. milligram edible.
You know, on a side note, before we get into the testing thing, we're planning on doing a MITA-AZ, and I wish Sam was still here because we were talking about it, like a happy hour, where anyone who the qualification we're looking at doing, like if you make your money off of the Arizona industry, you can participate. And one of those giant ones where you just have sheets and sheets and sheets of people, 25 at a time. You've probably been on them on the Zoom calls, and we're looking at doing one of those. And that one will have edibles. I agreed to drink wine, although I don't really even drink anymore. So we're going to have some fun with that one. So we'll get into that one probably like on Friday, starting next week or something. That's entirely side note. Let me turn it over because we got a lot of questions that were answered. So we want the format today to be of those who are willing to participate as panelists. I'll be looking at the chat and I'll get those questions answered as well. But Hope is going to start with the questions that were submitted on the Eventbrite. So without further ado, thank you guys for joining, and turn over to Hope.
Awesome. Thank you very much. And all right, so here are the ground rules. No, I'm just kidding, but I'm not afraid to use the mute button if I have to. Or actually, you guys will hit that mute button, but I was shocked by the number of questions that were submitted. There was no need for us or the panelists to come up with questions. There were literally hundreds and hundreds. And so what I did was I categorized them. I am going to bring up a question from each category and then ask in general. If there were more than one questions asked about a specific topic, I'm just going to ask generally what those questions were getting at. It's so important to hear from everybody out there asking these questions versus maybe some of our biased ways that we might move things forward. So with that being said, I also want to indicate that we are not state employees, and there's nothing that you're going to hear coming out of my mouth that is going to be worth replacing anything that you would get from the DHS itself or from an attorney. These are, as we understand it, kind of conversations. So I think that's really important to put out there.
Yeah, if anybody wants to sue me, go ahead. It's okay.
Yeah. Wouldn't be the first time?
Yeah, I could care less.
Okay, so to kind of get us going and so you can kind of feel the flavor, I'm actually going to take the first question because it also allows us to establish what we're talking about today. And one of the questions that was submitted is Arizona planning to up the Delta 9 THC threshold to 1.0. Obviously, this question has to do with hemp. And so I'm going to just briefly answer the question. Arizona, it's more of a USDA federal kind of thing, and there are ways and people can get involved. So, but it's not relevant to us. However, the labs that are in Arizona can test for hemp. We want to focus on the marijuana side of things. And so the first question, actually, I would like to, I have to push to Ryan first. It's, why is testing good for patients? And how can robust testing and transparency be used to build product trust in consumers?
Well, I think there's kind of a twofold answer to that. I think there's the product trust and the consumer confidence. And then I think there's also the ability to gain more efficacy in the medical treatment utilizing cannabis as a medicine itself, right? I don't know that you can be as targeted and as effective as you hope to be or what potentially could be if you don't understand what are all the constituents that make up your product. And be that, you know, major and minor cannabinoids, be that the terpenes that are contained within it. And, you know, half of the testing that we're implementing has to do with safety, right? And that's the bare minimum to enter the game. And then after we get through the safety portion of it, when we get into the terpenes and the cannabinoids and some of the things that are the therapeutic elements of the medicine itself, I think that empowers patients to be able to take more control over what they're taking, what their regimen is, and have it become more of an actual pharmaceutical regimen, though it isn't a pharmaceutical product. They can mimic and be more in control of a consistent dosage and a regimen. And then I think contrary to that, the consumer confidence and understanding that every SKU or every product that's being sold in a dispensary has to meet these bare minimum elements of safety, that we know that I'm not risking my safety by deciding to buy any product that this dispensary offers, because they have to meet at least that. and then understanding that they can rely on and take confidence in some of the label claims, because it is by law, by statute required to, if you're going to promote a certain cannabinoid or a certain therapeutic element, that you have to prove that, and it has to be backed up by a state accredited laboratory and data. So I think for both those reasons, it's an improvement all the way around. So we look forward to getting to see the benefit for that from a patient and medical standpoint, and also to set up some good cornerstones and foundation as we move into adult use.
Thank you, Ryan. Thomas, I'm curious also to hear your perspective briefly on how you think it would affect your, your patients having testing.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's had that that experience where they've eaten half of a brownie or a half of a dose, and they don't feel anything, and then they finish the rest of that half, and then they're sitting in the corner talking to the devil, right? And I don't think that anybody, when they take an Advil, worries about whether or not there are harmful chemicals in it, if the dose was within range. And that's why I believe that is very important. It gives confidence to the patient or the consumer in this case, that to be able to try more. And that's why we like to start with being able to start with a really low dose so that they can gain confidence and they can slowly titrate up. I mean, this is a medicine, and that's how it should be treated.
Thank you very much. And I'm actually going to move to a topic that I think is weighing on everybody's minds. So let's just cut to it. And this question is, I heard the ADA is now trying to get these dates pushed way out to avoid testing. How can we trust non-tested products is safe? And there were several of these questions asked. So it's going to be along those lines of let's loop in. It's one thing that the ADA is doing it, but in general, the idea is getting to, are there going to be enough labs? Are the labs going to be prepared? And actually, let's focus there. Are there enough labs? Are the labs prepared? And is there going to be a shortage for patients come November? And I'd like to hear from George starting.
Thank you, Hope.
Yeah.
That's the question that's on everybody's mind. We were involved yesterday in the second in the last 2-week phone conference with DHS. Steve Baker during that call said, I want as many labs licensed as I can get. And the Cannabis Lab Association wholeheartedly seconds that motion. A whole lot of ills are healed when we have increased competition of labs. Nevada, for example, has 13 labs, 11 in Clark County, which is Las Vegas, and 2 up north in Reno, which might be the only other city in Nevada as far as I know. But about 3 million people in all of Nevada. That's a lab per 230,000 people. They have a big tourism piece. We have a big tourism piece. We're just north of 7 million people, and at a lab per 230,000 people, that's nigh on to 30 labs in this marketplace once we get into adult use. So the potential is limitless. And the labs are working. You know, Ryan and I both talked a little bit in the intro about the exponential growth that we're going through. Like Steve says, it is an honor to be an essential business in this landscape, and that has allowed us to hire and continue to hire through this COVID situation that we all find ourselves in, especially in the state of Arizona. We are a growing concern. We believe that we are going to be ready when testing comes. We believe that very strongly. I do have one suggestion I'd like to make. The setup right now is that a lab has to get ISO accredited in all 5 tests before DHS will come in and begin its inspection process. COVID is having influence on virtually everybody, especially in America, so much so in this state. ISO companies that shepherd labs through the ISO process are having COVID-related travel issues. Labs are having trouble finding a pulse with some of their ISO providers, the people that shepherd ISO accreditation. And Steve Baker said yesterday, it is DHS's intent to not begin its inspection process until ISO accreditation is done. My very strong suggestion would be, in light of the fact that Steve Baker also said, we're not going to use ISO, we're not going to use anything in any ISO report. We're going to make our own determination. DHS will come into your labs with a team of between, well, 6 test-specific, trained, decades of experienced people that far outstrips anything ISO brings to the table. I suggest we have DHS start its inspections now. There's no reason to wait for ISO because they're not going to use any of the information ISO provides. Let's begin those inspections now and move to get ahead of the curve here. We're not, all of us have the same COVID issues. The labs are, to a lab, small, often family-owned operations, 10 to 20 employees that are working in small spaces, and we're doing everything we can to keep our teams safe on and off the field. And it just makes sense to me that we begin moving forward with the inspection, the DHS specific inspection process immediately and without further delay.
Just a footnote, in preparing for this, I heard lots of rumors and stuff, and my own rudimentary analysis of the subject matter, it seemed to me like that DHS was going to have to, or was planning on delaying testing because of the COVID stuff and 3, 4, 5 months behind on this and that. So we did invite them to participate, but it's very complicated getting them to be allowed to speak publicly. So that wasn't able to be arranged, but they did say they'd be watching our Zoom meeting because of the caliber of individuals, including Mark and Steve and you guys they were really impressed with our people. So they're watching. So just a heads up on that.
Well, a very valid point, Dimitri. And I would say that DHS has a full bucket, no question. They are out in front of this COVID. But I have to say that they are consummate professionals to a person. When we reach out to them, they get right back to us. And I know they're busy. We're all busy, but they are responsive to us.
Yeah, and if I could just piggyback on that real quick, and I'm sorry to jump in, but I think to clarify, everything that's been required of DHS, they have met, right? We have assembled the advisory council. We had the report to the governor and DHS by December 31st of 2019. They came out with their rules by the first week and the first couple days of April. The DHS has met what the requirements and what is expected of them. And now as we go through the process, of course, there's going to be ironing out and discussion amongst the laboratories that are expected to meet the accreditation process and the requirements, and then how that impacts the labs versus what DHS wants to uphold as far as the lab standard. And the advisory council and the industry at large that participated in this process elected for the highest level of science possible. Now, we wanted to make sure we weren't over cumbersome and took on, unrealistic standards, but at the same time, we wanted to be, highly clear and scientifically defensible and repeatable and very accurate throughout the process to achieve what we've intended to achieve. So to that point, understand that the labs are running as fast and in concert with DHS, and that this process is a hand-in-hand process. So that it's not like the labs are standing back and saying, I'm not going to move until, the last minute. We're moving as we can and along with the program as fast as we can, as it develops, as it comes to fruition, as it's refined. So I know many of the labs are running hand in hand with DHS and looking for them for guidance. DHS is also looking and listening to our concerns. And thankfully, as the intent was in 1494, DHS has the ability to go and address these rules and tweak where is necessary, so long as they do not vary from the legal statute, from the legislative statute. So as long as they follow the statute, the power's in their hands to make sure that we make the program as viable and as easy as not as easy, but as viable and as effective as we can to meet the deadlines that we're facing and the concerns, I think, that are valid from all sides, but we are working together and doing that hand in hand, just to reassure everyone.
Thanks, Ryan. And as we transition, I want to hear from Mark next, because you come at this from a different perspective. I can say that one of the things that has come up in some of the questions that, and it is based off of what Ryan just said, working with DHS hand in hand. The labs couldn't invest in a lot of the equipment until they understand what the rules were. And that's procurement of equipment is expensive. And once they get that in and start developing their standards, then they can start applying for the ISO and the inspections. So when we say, or when you hear working in concert, that's an example of sometimes the labs couldn't do something until there was another step done. But I think it's really important, Mark, to hear from you and get your perspective on this topic as well. You had started to mention it in your intro.
Oh, and just real quickly, technical issue. People want to see the gallery view. One of the favorite things people do watching these things is the gallery view, but for some reason or other, Zoom is not offering that. So we're going to put the Facebook link, because it's also on Facebook Live, so that the gallery view can be seen there or something. So Mark, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but go ahead.
No, no problem. So yeah, I think Ryan makes a good point, and George as well. I mean, and Hope, you're right. I mean, the labs can only act as fast as they need to with regard to the specs they have to meet with the equipment and so forth. I don't know how many at this point are completely certified. I heard, I'm not sure if this is 100% accurate, but I heard that one lab does have all 5 certifications, but has not yet been approved by ADHS, probably because they're.
So Mark, why don't you pause there? Let's ask anybody in the panel know that answer.
I just saw on the chat comment that Barb Dow from Pure Labs over in Maryvale has indicated they are ISO certified for all 5 tests.
Okay, thank you.
There is only one lab that has been officially through the registration process. So important to understand, this is a 2-step process. There's the initial facility registration, just like the dispensaries and cultivations go through, from a security and quality management, inventory control, all of those things that anybody that has cannabis goes through. Then secondarily to that, there is a technical review where they come and assess your technical abilities and make sure that all that you're doing meets up to their standards and is scientifically defensible. So up until this point, we do not have it nailed down to the point where they feel comfortable coming and doing a technical review yet. However, the registration process is very clear, and multiple laboratories have already engaged in that. And George, if you want to correct me if I'm wrong, I believe there's 10 to 13 or 14 labs engaging in the process. Now, I will not overstate and say that all 10 or 14 of those labs will achieve the goal, but I know that there is that many that are now in the process and working with DHS.
I spoke with 14 people, but I believe the number has grown, and everyone is comfortable that it will continue to do so as we move towards adult use.
I'm sorry, we had kind of interrupted and stopped Mark to get a number, and so I wanted Mark to have an opportunity to answer and give his thoughts. Sorry.
Well,
Your turn.
I think once again, we, the dispensary group and myself included, support testing completely. We see the benefits to patients, the confidence that testing brings to the industry, and that patients know that the products they're buying are safe and effective, and they know the exact potency and the terpene profile, and the fact that it doesn't have pesticides. And I think that's going to separate our legitimate regulated industry from the underground economy illicit sellers out there who knows what they're putting on their products. And I think that's going to be a different point of differentiation that I think patients will embrace wholeheartedly. And when it moves to adult use, I think we'll bring customers to dispensaries in support of the state. So I'm looking forward to this taking place. The timing is the issue. I mean, I've just seen the nightmare in other states, and this is what we're all worried about in the dispensary community, is will the capacity, to test all of the products, because virtually everything that we sell effective November 1st has to have a test score on all 5 areas. And we have to be able to produce that. And our inventory systems will control those products. They won't make it into our inventory system unless they have the testing scores attached to them that can be accessed by a patient through a QR code or a barcode or you know, every dispensary can do it differently as long as they're making that information available. But it's got to be available, and we'll be inspected on it. And heaven forbid anybody should sell a product that's not tested. So you could lose your license. So I mean, we have to make sure that the capacity is going to be there. You know, and then that's the big fear. And we know COVID's a factor. You know, we know the timing of the rollout and the acquisition of the equipment and all of that is a factor. We know some dispensaries are moving to bigger locations to handle, you know, the excess business that'll come to them when the day comes and everything has to be tested. So there's a lot of challenges, and you know, we're concerned. I mean, at this point, we just, you know, we're just looking at how few are certified, and we're saying, you know, are we going to be able to do this? Because it's not just November 1st we have to have all these products ready. It's long before that. And the supply chain, you know, goes out a month or more. So, I mean, really by sometime in September, we have to pretty much insist that everything we put on that we bring into the dispensaries has been tested, because they could, you know, this product could sit on the shelves more than a month, possibly, you know.
And Mark, thank you, because it kind of leads into how is the transition going to, or how might it look? And Maxime, the fact that you help companies, how would you, if this was you're doing this, you're going through the process, what would an ideal situation look like for that transition? And then where do you see the bottlenecks popping up? And then let's talk about that and see and get Steve in on this as a part of that conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I think that if you haven't already started thinking about how you're going to implement the new testing regulations into your operations, whether you're a current licensee or an operator, you're already behind, right? And so I'm not saying you have to implement it right this moment, because there are parts of, you know, the program that aren't ready yet. Like, for example, the labs and you know, the final regulations haven't even been established. But, you know, it's very similar to the marijuana industry as a whole, and that includes licensing, especially applications when you're meeting a certain deadline, and oftentimes, you know, it feels like the cart is before the horse. And so coming up with a timeline on what you can control is what's really important. And then making sure that you are implementing things that you can implement right now that will not substantially cost you, you know, a lot in terms of your costs, are important. So thinking about how you're going to implement the new packaging and labeling to ensure you're compliant, how you are, you know, what labs are you considering working with, and how close they are to getting registered or certified, or, you know, getting that approval to operate. You know, how you are going to transition the older products off your shelves into the newer products. And so coming up with, you know, a timeline essentially to roll out your operations that are consistent with what you can control right now. Like I said, packaging and labeling, patient education, training your employees, supply chain, inventory control, how you're going to integrate that into your POS systems and or your inventory control systems, and then how that's going to affect cost, right? So obviously for those that aren't testing, or for those that are currently testing, you know, is that going to affect your overall cost in terms of the products? And so putting a timeline together and then altering that as the program progresses can help save a lot of time in the future for when, you know, things start falling into place. They always tend to, and then the state, you know, is always willing to work with the operators and the licensees to ensure that the program is successful. And so while we may not have all the pieces to roll out the program successfully now, it'll all fall into place. And so I always tell our clients that, you know, to focus on what you can control right now with the current information that we have, and not let the missing pieces slow you down in terms of implementing, or at least getting ready to implement. Now, the bottleneck in terms of supply and demand, I don't have a crystal ball, but just based on what I'm witnessing, I think there will be a supply issue. Yeah. And so, you know, I think the bottleneck will end up being, you know, I've talked to some of the operators here, and some of them aren't even thinking about it, and rightfully so, because they're dealing with COVID. So I get that. But, what will happen is, there'll only be a handful of labs that are certified come, September or even October, and operators will start to try and catch up, and that will backlog the labs. And so that's one way that things will get backlogged in terms of supply. And so I think setting things up right now and controlling what you can, so that when you have the opportunity to work with the lab to push things forward, is important.
Steve,
I was going to ask Steve,
I mean, Curaleaf and Nature's Medicine, I mean, it just seems there's a couple questions on the panelists here about will stuff be grandfathered in and what's this going to do to pricing? That seems like a mess, just for a moment in time, in October and November, the transitioning of product. Either you guys want to talk about any of your specific plans in regards to what you guys are thinking?
Yeah, something to keep in mind here is in 4 months, we're in November. So this whole process needs to be solidified and rolled out and going, which means in 2 months, we need to be testing these products, having them on our shelves. I can tell you right now, we keep about a month's supply in our inventory in our distribution center. That's a lot of products to be able to ensure, to be able to get them out to our stores and supply everybody. I think what we need to do is give DHS a little bit of discretion to be able to roll out the testing in, say, a tiered fashion. I'm all for testing out on November, the date that it's designed for. Great. Let's roll out potency for the first month. Let's roll out mold testing the following month. So we don't want to slow this down, but I think a tiered approach would allow for the department to be, and the laboratories to be able to understand exactly how much is going to come in, because whether it's 13 labs or 6 labs that we're going to have available, and I think it's going to be closer to 6 labs. I know we're going to have level 1, we're going to have C4, we're going to have DVT, we're going to have pure labs. That's 4 that I can count on that I know. I know those 4 are ready. I can't speak to the other 9 laboratories out there. I don't know who they are. So that's scary. I think Curaleaf, Nature's Medicine, and Harvest alone are going to create a bottleneck into those companies that is, shall I say, timely. And it's going to be a delay, and that's not fair to the patients. So by doing a tiered process of the rollout would be beneficial to the industry, beneficial to the patients. I know the laboratories, because I was one of them. I want it all now, but in consideration of keeping your patients or your customers happy with you, having a tiered rollout would probably be best. I think none of us know exactly how many tests are going to come in. I know that level 1 and C4 are being inundated with potency and some terpene tests and some potency test or some pesticide test and mold test, but you guys really haven't seen the whole hit of it yet. And I know right now we're 4 to 5 days in some cases of delay on our results. So to me, that's concerning. I know it's concerning to Mark. I know it's concerning to many people in this industry that have dispensaries.
Yes.
It actually helps me wonder, how long does it take to actually test something, right? I mean, so when we say these bottlenecks and the concern with getting, anything grandfathered or the new products, George and Ryan, can you explain, just maybe using flower or one concentrate as an example, so everybody can understand why we're concerned about bottlenecks, and if you think you can address them as a lab, how are you doing that?
Yeah, I would love to jump in and give George any opportunity he needs here, but I think the points that Steve made and that Mark made are valid, and I can certainly see where the concerns are coming from. Obviously, we want to make sure we're taking care of the patient, bottom line, right? And we want to make sure everybody has the opportunity to continue to operate their business in the best manner that they're capable of doing. But I also think everyone has to understand that this is a huge regulatory change to the program, the most significant change to the program without question since its implementation. So to expect that there is not going to be a bit of stress and a bit of change and a bit of acclimation period and transition period that may be painful for both sides, I think is kind of unrealistic, because we're only unique in the sense that we've had an industry that has grown so large in the last 8.5, 9, 10 years that we've actually been able to operate, that to now implement a testing program when we've already grown to this size adds to the challenge of achieving that very thing.
There's not been any other state that's done this, is there?
No, and there isn't, but we were unique from the sense that we only had 120 days in the beginning, and there was no reasonable way Will Humble was going to write an effective testing program. And then the fact that it was a voter initiative made it next to impossible to get the actual language amended and changed without 75%. So without going down that rabbit hole, I think my point is that when Steve says it's taking 4 or 5 days, I can understand that that may be longer than what it has taken previously when we were only doing a la carte, potency here, terpenes there, residuals there. But when we add a complete panel to every end SKU, and we're talking about things that obviously Steve can attest to, this is highly technically difficult. You got to make sure that you're doing this the right way, QA, QC, not to mention some of the stipulations that are being brought upon the lab specifically. ISO and some of the requirements take away, now I don't want to say take away, they ensure accuracy, but they also add some time. They also add, some extra effort and some diligence that's required to make sure we have the highest science and that are doing the best job for the patients. So to have the expectation that the turn times will stay the same or go down, regardless if we had 13 labs or 35 labs, is not realistic in the fact that 1, the volume is going to increase, 2, the science has become much more thorough, QA and QC procedures have added a tremendous amount, not to mention that we've gone from 1 or 2 tests per sample to now a 5 test complete panel, right? So I do understand where the concern comes from, but I think there has to be a give and a take, and that any operator or license holder also has to take some accountability in saying, I need to adjust or change my supply chain to accommodate to a 7-day or a 5 to 7 day turn time, as opposed to expecting 2, 3, or 4, which in my opinion is unrealistic for what we're being asked to do.
That's good advice, Ryan.
Mark, Thomas, and Sam, if you guys want to weigh in on this, I know Maxine, Steve, Ryan, so let George, Thomas, but first Thomas, Mark, you go first, then Thomas and Sam, then George, because this is a very important topic. This issue of this transition is to me, I'm glad I don't have to do it.
Yeah, so Ryan makes a good point. Supply chain management is huge, and Steve knows that. Running many stores, the more stores you add, the more difficult that becomes. And we are going to have to add some time. Maxine scares the heck out of me when she says a lot of her clients she's talking to haven't even thought of this. It's like, oh my God! I mean, we've been working on timelines for this for months, and we have every detail worked out down to the end in terms of having arrangements made to have the testing and our protocols and procedures put into place. The biggest concern we have is the capacity going to be there? Because I don't know how many people are testing currently, how many dispensaries are testing their product. We have from the beginning, and I know Steve tests all his stuff, and most of the better dispensaries do, but there's probably 35 or 40% of them out there that don't. And when they are forced to, we don't know what that's going to do to the numbers. Right now, only testing 2 or 3 panels of the 5. We're seeing, we'd like to have everything turned around in 48 hours with the labs that are out there, but we're seeing 4 or 5 days, as Steve points out. So that's I guess there's laggards and there's leaders in every industry, and that's probably going to be true on both the dispensary side and on the lab side. I know some of the labs are going to be ready, they're going to be certified, they're going to be approved. But my question is, will there be enough to handle the mandate of every dispensary, including those that have never tested anything, to make sure it's online? The bottle, other states have gone through this. I mean, we're not the only one. I mean, it was a mess in California when they went from no testing to a testing mandate. And I think half the product didn't pass. So again, to Maxine's point, a lot of our clients haven't thought about it. I want to even know, maybe some of their products aren't going to pass. Maybe they haven't been testing it as they should be to make sure that it meets the mold threshold, that that the products they're using for pest control is organic and not a chemical that would be rejected in the test. I mean, heaven forbid. But I think we're going to see some product fall out, and that's going to create a bottleneck as well.
What do you think, George?
George and Thomas.
Yeah.
There was just an article recently in the last 2 weeks that I read that referenced a study that UC Davis had done on the California cost of testing and what causes it to rise. And they were really saying, to Mark's point, that a lot of the vast majority of the increase of cost from failed product testing was due to complete product failure that resulted in remediation. So the grows being ready is a big thing. We have helped, we have parts per billion pesticide testing, have for about a year, and we have helped facilities that have had generational contamination in their facilities. We've done swab tests in addition to product tests that help find that contamination and remove it. That's not a quick process either. But your original question, Hope, was how the labs are going to be ready. For level 1, and I think the lab association members are, as referenced earlier, our efforts have been in growth, adding redundancy. We're just adding our second GCMS. We've got 3 HPLCs going. We're looking to add another LC triple quad before we get to November 1st, if the stars align. And that's, I mentioned earlier, we've hired throughout. So, all the uncertainties and all the rumors about the date getting moved, I'm not sure how you do that since it's law. All of the, the suggestion I made on how DHS could get us all to market faster are all the different variables that we need to look at and work together to get there. This is not an industry that has never faced adversity. As Mark and Steve and Dimitri, all of you can tell. We've had to work together and bootstrap before, and we'll do it again. And the labs stand at the ready to help.
Thomas, you guys are going to have all this product that's untested, that needs to be tested. What kind of transition plans is Bake Bros looking at?
Well, right now we test all of our product for potency. So the concern is going to be, molds and pesticides and things like that. The deeper testing, the ones that take a lot longer. And unfortunately, the ones that cost a lot more. And so that's what's one of my concerns is the cost of this and allowing the labs to be able to get deep into their resources and lower the costs, because inevitably the cost, if it's high enough, it's going to bleed into the customers and into the patients and the purchasing price. And that's more of what my concern is. But other than that, I don't have really much more to add on to what you guys have already said.
If I could shoehorn onto what Thomas said, and DHS talked about this yesterday, and what Steve Baker said was he didn't see upward pressure price coming to Arizona based on the lay of the land. And that seems to me to be the reality of the situation. So you're obviously going to have a difference from potency only to a full panel, but I don't think you're going to see the type of rate increases. And I don't know, this is just George's hunch, but I'm telling you, I don't think there's going to be massive profit taking.
I worry about the small batch producers. I think the larger, bigger batch producers will be able to absorb the costs. I mean, I'm hearing, getting bids and talking to other, operators. I think the $700 range per set of panels is not going to be unusual. But if you're a small batch producer, you're only producing a couple of pounds as your batch. I mean, that's going to raise the price. You're going to see, $1 or so a gram increase for a small batch producer. That's going to be tough. I think there will be the shock of having that added cost. And if you're doing, 100 batches a month, that's $70,000 you're spending, or 840,000, whatever that works out to annually. But that's a lot for a producer to absorb. And I don't think they can absorb all of it. I think some of it's going to be passed along. And again, if this testing does take away part of the supply chain, the laws of supply and demand are going to kick in, and prices probably will go up for a period of time from the 1-2 punch of additional cost and less supply, more demand as the program continues to grow, and then adult uses around the corner potentially.
So I see Sam is back. Sorry, Sam, I thought you were gone, and then now you're back, and then people are like, "Dude, let Sam say something." And
well, I like it. First of all, I want to mark that down. What is it? July 9th, someone asked me to say something more. So let's just go ahead and mark that. There's a few things that I just want to.
Actually, if I could really quick, I want you to elaborate on that, but I also want to know if once you address this topic, could you also kind of lead us into a transition? Is there anything the ADA is doing to help promote any kind of patient educational resources? And can you speak if ADA has any plan on how to educate the public and then their staff, et cetera? So take it away, Sam.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And so there's a few things that I would love to address. And we talked a little bit about the timing turnaround. And not only is the panel going to increase, but with a limited number of labs being up and running, I think the geographic question is one that we need to talk about as well, right? Most of the high volume producers and cultivators are outside the Phoenix metro area, which would mean that if those labs that are up and running are in the Phoenix metro area, it has to be travel time to that lab, the processing time, and then plus getting back out to the dispensary. So I think that greater Arizona is going to definitely feel the pinch at more so than some of the metro area dispensaries. And I think to maybe lead into the transition, because there's a lot to say, but I'll just go ahead and say that as an organization, as an association, we are laser focused on not only the trust of the public here, but also the safety of patients. As was mentioned elsewhere in this call, we have 250,000 patients that rely on quality products and safe products. And they're going to look to continue that level of quality and that level of safety.
Well, Sam, you still there?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay. You froze there. Your image just froze for a second. No, and Sam and I have had long talks about this, and I'm really your philosophical perspective on this, Sam, is the ADA really couldn't have chosen a better leader. So we look forward to MITA looks forward to helping you in any capacity. And what was your next question?
Did you have one, or I have like a whole
could
list of them?
Could I ask the labs, could I follow up on Sam? I mean, he made a point about the geographies. I mean, most of the labs being in Phoenix. Are there any plans to put more of them in the Tucson area? There's a lot of us that produce in the southern part of the state, a part of the state that really, wants jobs and has a capable workforce. And we have a sizable facility south of Tucson, but there are very few labs down there. And that's where a lot of the volume is going to come from.
Yeah, and next day pickup services available. So we currently have one courier that's out there, every day of the week. You place an order the day before, the next day you're on the schedule. We intend to adding another driver and making sure that we have scheduled days throughout the week that we can service some of the more rural and outskirt areas like Flagstaff, Payson, Tucson, Bullhead, anywhere in the rural area. So if you're in the state of Arizona, I'll find a way to get to you. And I have a feeling George has the same outlook.
He does now.
Well, but I know as far as C4 does, but I know George, he looks to service his clients as best as possible. So just maybe I went out on a limb there for him, but.
And we've talked about the needs, Mark, Tucson market, and it's very real. I think Tucson kind of hurt itself a little bit when it limited the grow size down there.
Back in 2013, right?
Yeah, and so you can't have. It's my understanding. I'm certainly no expert that you can't have bigger than a 3,000 square foot grow.
No, now you can. They changed that ordinance in 2014, but a lot of people made their plans around other counties and other jurisdictions.
Mm-hmm. And we've been to some of those facilities down there, and it's also something that Steve Baker who's with DHS, who started the environmental program and is now hip deep in the MJ program, has said is that you'll find he can point to many instances where the market had a gap. He talks about people environmental complaining no labs in Yuma, and now there's 4. So. No labs in Tucson, maybe not. Our fix for that in the short term is we went out before we opened and bought a Kia Soul, and we spin the tires off that thing running samples. So we'll support you, just like Ryan said. We'll support your efforts in Tucson until the day comes when it makes fiscal sense to have a lab down there, and then we'll do that.
Thanks, George.
We actually have been contacted by a lab that is planning on starting in Tucson. So obviously, whatever lab comes to us, we'll share that information with everybody.
Sure.
Can I ask the labs just a quick question about the 16-gram sample issue? I mentioned the small batch producers is a concern of ours. A lot of us have smaller and larger facilities. We have a small boutique grow in Phoenix that produces small batches, high top shelf quality stuff. But I worry about if we're producing a couple pounds of trim, the conversion rate might produce, 70, 80, 90 grams of product of shatter, let's say. But if I have to give 16 grams of that to the test sample, I mean, that's a huge cost, and it makes it, much less viable for a small producer to compete. I mean, is the 16 grams going to be necessary, or do you think there's a way to make that a smaller sample amount? It sounded to me like you really didn't need that much to do the testing. It's just that there was a request, an ideal request from the scientific community. Well, we should have an extra set of backup on hand just in case something goes wrong with the first sample set. But at the same time, we can't sell anything until it's approved. So we'll always have extra samples if something goes wrong with the first set of samples and you need a backup set. I mean, we can always have to supply those. It might interrupt the supply chain for a few days, but to double up what is actually necessary just seems excessive.
Steve,
Mark,
you were on the panel on the
initially-
committee. What do you think?
Yeah.
Well,
Mark, that initially was said, it's really eight grams is what we're looking at there. Yes, an additional 8 grams to follow up. So you have, a half a gram for potency. You have a number of things, but through all the heavy metals, pesticide, mold analysis, and potency, after all, you're looking at about 6 grams worth of material to do a full panel. And then in order to ensure that the laboratories are getting the exact same product on the backup test, an additional 8 grams needed to be supplied. I, for one, tried to bring it down to 6 grams, but I was overruled.
And how does that convert into edibles, right? How many gummies is 8 grams?
That's a great point. I mean, concentrates and edibles, in my very humble opinion, doesn't apply. Flour, I can kind of see where 16 grams may be applicable. When it comes to concentrate, in my opinion, that's an incredible amount of redundancy. I mean, when we're doing a potency test, we're only digesting 200 to 300 milligrams of the actual concentrate. Now, there may be multiple runs to validate and those type of things, but I don't see where 16 grams of concentrates is necessary. As far as the edible goes, I would say that probably 2 each for any stop that it may find. So where the initial laboratory would have 2 of those items, and then if it wanted to be challenged and gone to another laboratory for either verification or to retort the original, data, then there's two each for them, and then 2 each for the state to decide which one's right. So that might be my humble recommendation, but to your point, I totally agree. 16 grams may be applicable to flour, but I don't see it necessary in the other categories.
And if I could just jump in there, because I think Ryan brought up a really great point there, right? That the 16 gram rule and everything, just it shouldn't apply to concentrates and edibles. The frustration right now, and really one of the things that we're trying to point out, is per rule and per statute, it does currently. And that's one of the reasons why we're trying to continue to bring up to the department, that the department needs more discretion to roll out these rules in this program, because right now they're really constrained and handcuffed by the fact that 16 grams is what's in rule, and it is agnostic currently to what the product is. So the rules don't have a full understanding of the marketplace and how consumers consume. And George brought up Steve Baker's name earlier, and I have great respect for him, but I'll let him decide kind of what should get tested and how many parts per billion. But I think that those of us that represent this panel and the 150 or so folks in the audience kind of understand the difference between the flour and the concentrates and the edibles, and why there needs to be much more nuance and discretion given to the department to roll this program out.
Well, how concerned should patients be? Because I'm trying to think about this like a patient, and I'm thinking to myself, DHS has this massive mountain that they have to maneuver post-COVID. DHS has to run with COVID they're doing COVID for 5 months here. And I'm hearing that there could be trouble. What should patients, who wants to speak? Steve, you want to go ahead because you're with MITA. So should patients be worried or nervous? I mean, everything going to be fine?
I would say stock up on your medicine before November 1st, just in case. But I think that the department's going to get this right. I have all the faith in the world the department's going to do what's right for this industry. Their last thing that the department is going to do, the very last thing they're going to do, is harm our patients and harm the dispensaries. That would be not a very, that would not be wise. And they've alluded to the fact that they've recognized that this is not what our intentions are. We are not going to harm this industry. So whether it is a tiered rollout or however it works, you know, I have all the confidence in the world that if there is a delay, it's going to be a slight delay, and that the laboratories, the 4 that I named before, and 2 of them are on this call right now, I have all the confidence in the world of their analytical abilities, and the fact that these people have ramped up and purchased all of the instrumentation to be able to do these tests in a rapid form, in a rapid timeline. So it's going to be, I don't think it's going to be as scary as we think. With regards to edibles, we need to get some clarification. I think what we need to see is a real organization chart of exactly how it's tested. So if you're only an edibles manufacturer, how many tests do you have to get? Or if you're buying oil from said manufacturer, can you just go out and buy your oil that's already been tested? So Thomas then is only required to do his final product testing. He knows his potency on the front end. As an edible manufacturer, that's going to be a much faster route down the way. So they will get to market a lot faster. But we need to get laboratory certified now, July, August, September, so that we can start testing and start building our supply. So come November, I've got 15,000 grams of oil sitting in stock where I can, whether they go to all the edibles or they go to vape cartridges or whatever it is, my patients are not experiencing a loss in time.
You at Curaleaf, and I'm sure Nature's Medicine and Bake Bros, you guys directly have your databases, your emails that you send out to your patients. You'll be communicating to them what's happening with the testing and all that from your system, right? I assume.
Hopefully we won't have to. Hopefully we'll say, hey, congratulations, all of your medicine is now certified. You know, that's in the perfect world. But I think, you know, to have the open conversation with our customers and our patients, just to understand that, hey, you know, we are embarking into a new territory, that with this program, which is 9 years old now, or I'm sorry, it's a lot more than that. It's 11 years old, basically. And so it's going to be something neat for the patients to experience as, well, now my medicine is truly clean, truly certified. I can go to my dispensary and I can medicate peacefully, knowing that I'm not sucking on or inhaling something that is not clean, pure, and not healthy for me.
By the way,
hopefully that's the case right now. I mean, that most everything everybody's buying is perfectly acceptable. I mean, I know most of the dispensaries are members of the Arizona Dispensary Association. We talk about testing and purity and potency standards, and my guess is most of your better dispensaries already test and know what they're selling. So I mean, we don't want to put out a narrative that that would alarm people that things are bad now, but November 1st everything will be cleaned up. Because I think most of us have been testing all along. Most of the products are, everything we sell has been tested for potency and purity, and this is just going to be making it official and making it universal throughout the industry, which is a good thing.
By the way, Ryan, I was scratching my nose, not picking it. Okay. But you're up next. From the patient perspective, should patients be concerned? What do you think? Think about the 250,000 patients out there.
Yeah, I think generally, no. I think to Mark's point, many of the larger producers and the people that have some business acumen and that have cared about the patients for a long period of time know this was coming, have made changes, have become more diligent into paying attention to, what's coming down the pipe here to us, and then what standard we're going to be held to. Now, I'm not as confident to say that the ones that maybe have not prescribed to that approach early on, I do have genuine and I think legitimate concerns for them being able to right the ship now, as opposed to starting 3, 6, 8 months ago. I mean, it's been a year since we knew this was coming.
Well, they need to hire Maxine then.
Well, I mean, you definitely need to get in touch with somebody that knows what they're talking about and can help you understand a root cause analysis. All right.
Yeah.
So I think anybody that has not gone through and said, I need to at least bare minimum know where I stand in order to know how I move forward. And I think there has been, unfortunately, some people out there that have taken this stick my head in the sand or no whammy, no whammy, no whammy approach on November 1st, when in fact that really may turn out poorly for them, because we do have general concerns. There is a fair bit of microbial activity, but thankfully most people are not failing for the microorganisms that are pathogenic and would be a concern for health. So that's good. That means that we're not going to choke them there. On the pesticide side, much to the licensees and cultivators' credit, there really hasn't been the testing down to the limits that's needed in the market overall to give them a good idea where they stand. So now we've just had that for the last year for them to now start understanding what may pop up that they didn't expect and that they weren't aware was there. And I think to Mark's point, to wrap it up very quickly, I think the most forward-thinking, larger brands, most patient-focused brands, I think have looked at those issues, know they're present, are remediating and fixing those issues so that there's a minimal disruption from their side come November 1st.
Well, go ahead.
Yep. So I have one more question I want to ask, and then we're going to turn it over to the panel to kind of go one by one to kind of close out with your most significant take-home message. But the question that was asked, and it was a patient-based question, and I thought this, first of all, I felt a little challenged on it. The question is, are all buds in a dispensary sprayed with pesticides and other chemicals we know nothing about, such as GMOs? Like the supermarkets have organic and GMO food, is there a sense of organic strains ever available? Thanks for your time. Take care. I know it's political, but if you don't bring it up, I'll understand. But if not, then you'd be a legend to me. So I kind of felt called out as all. Challenge accepted. But it does get to the point of everybody wants to know what they're buying is safe. They want to have an understanding of what is on this product and how to go about it. And I think that gets to the patient education aspect of stuff. So everybody knows and understands what the hell is going on. What are they buying? How do we interpret that? And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Maxine and then let y'all kind of just go with this for a couple minutes before we start closing out.
So, I mean, organic is like a really loose term in this industry. I feel like, you know, you need to be certified in order to say that it's, you know, organically grown or whatnot. So a lot of the growers here will say that they use organic practices to grow their plants. And so that is a loaded question.
Just take a part of it, just give like and then kick it off to the next thing.
Yeah, I mean, you know, are there some ethically grown plants in this industry in Arizona? Absolutely. There's some really good growers that everyone knows of. And then there are some, you know, that do use other chemicals to prevent for pesticides and whatnot. Am I an expert grower? Absolutely not. Do I know that there are growers out there that are more boutique-y that allow for organic practices? Absolutely.
Well, and I think with your work with businesses and helping them in the compliance and prepare, how would you advise the companies, the labs, and the dispensaries educate to the greater community and patients specifically?
And maybe I can speak to that because I know that you asked me that earlier, and I glossed over it, but only because I had other things to say, not because I was avoiding it. And I think that what I'll say there is that we have a very robust and active membership that, as Mark mentioned, represents quite a large percentage of the industry. And if you are not currently a member, please give me a call. But what I will say though is that we have regular compliance meetings. I email our membership very regularly with updates from the department. We have contract representation. Many of you know Pele Peacock Fisher, who is absolutely fantastic and has great resources and is well connected throughout the entire building of the Department of Health. So absolutely, we are taking our role very seriously in the dissemination of information and preparation of our members, three of whom are on the call today in Nature's Baked Bros and Curaleaf. So grateful for that work and look to continue to do that, because really, again, just to reinforce it, and I'll take the first stab at maybe closing us out, just to say, or at least you don't have to come back to me, our laser focus is on patient safety, right? We want to make sure that the 250,000 patients, and as Dimitri said, hopefully after November 3rd, the 7.5 million residents of Arizona, as long as they're over 21, have access to quality medicine, safe medicine, and safe cannabis. And our lab partners here are going to go a long way in making sure that that's possible. But we just really need to make sure the department has discretion and the flexibility to make sure that this program is rolled out efficiently and to the best of their ability for patient safety.
Okay, everybody hold the thought for a second. This is a very popular topic. We got a lot of people on Facebook. We have 150 plus people hanging around during the whole time. It goes up and down because people checking it out. We're going to do a lab section part 2. And maybe one of you guys can help me about maybe end of September, beginning of October. And I hope all of you come back and participate so we can reflect on what's happened over the last 3 months. Can I get a raise of hands of people who agree to come back? I know Steve always, yeah, you guys will be back. Okay, great. Before you guys have your minute or two to close out, I am going to take a picture for my Instagram. So we all need to smile and look at the camera. Everybody. Okay. Oh, that is an amazing shot. Wait, Steve, I got to take another one. Everybody smile. I got a goofy face from Steve. So I'll send you that. You can post it on your Instagram, post it on Facebook. Again, everybody out there, you can see from the panelists, people are excited about the transparency. People are excited about companies like Curaleaf and Nature's Medicine and C4 and Level 1 and Cannabis Advisors and Bake Bros and the 88. And you guys being here, this is a time of great education. These little panel discussions are providing great information for people out there who are wondering what's going on in the world. So, God bless you all for participating. I've always thought that success can either be measured monetarily or in helping others. And I think MITA does a lot to help others. And it's through your guys' willingness to participate that we can do that. So let's, and Hope, you're amazing, the most knowledgeable person I know about testing. So I want to thank you for moderating. Let's get Hope to say good. Well, you guys each go one at a time. We'll go Ryan, then George, then Thomas, then Mark, then Steve, and then Maxine, or whatever order. And then we'll let Hope take a minute, say your goodbye to the audience, some closing thoughts, but we will have this panel once again in 3 months to discuss an update on testing. So Ryan, go ahead, take it away.
Cool. Thanks, Dimitri. And thank you, Hope, very much for moderating the discussion. I think this was hugely beneficial to the industry, to those people participating in viewing, and certainly the panel members today. I love the fact that we're willing to come together and have the dialogue. I think all of us having the end goal of continuing to serve the patient to the best of our ability and allow this industry to flourish and allow access to be continually growing to those people that need it. I'm proud to be on the journey with each and every one of you. And I hope that we as C4 and as myself can continue to support the patients and also support our clients in their efforts to serve those patients better. So I can't thank the panelists enough for participating in the conversation. And I hope that we can continue to do this. And I can assure you C4 will continue to try to lead from the front and be active in this discussion as we move towards November 1st.
That's right.
George?
Thanks, Dimitri. First of all, I want to thank you and MITA. What you've done for the industry has really been remarkable in the short number of years that we've been involved. But this is a huge undertaking that we're all working collaboratively and all doing, the labs are working together. DHS has been a great resource. I would, again, urge them to start their inspections without waiting for ISO. I don't see any downside with that. We do need to move. As Steve says, we're 4 months away from having to be in the dispensaries and moving forward. So there is no tomorrow. The time to go is now. We're thrilled to be here, thrilled to be a part of it. Really honored to be on this panel. Some very, very sharp individuals. And you don't have to have me back, Dimitri, but I appreciate the opportunity to be on this time.
Maybe one of the other labs wants to jump in, George. Yeah. Go ahead, Thomas or Mark.
I'll go, Mark. This is really just a message for anybody out there that's, wondering how this is going to turn out. Just really have faith in everybody that's putting forth the effort to get this to success. There's a lot of very smart people and very passionate people, and it will be good. It will be the best. And we've had a lot of failures to learn from. So I just encourage you to keep supporting us because everybody here is working for you.
And by the way, I don't have a Cure Leaf hat. I don't have a level 1 hat. I don't have a C4 hat. I don't have a Baked Rose hat. I don't have a Benson hat. I have a Sunday Goods hat. So keep that in mind.
Guardian Root.
Well, I want to thank you, Dimitri. We'll have to flood you with some merchandise here. Thank you, Dimitri and Hope, for moderating this panel. You did a great job. To answer the question that was first posed about safety, which is again job one for all of us. If you go to the website omri.org, omri.org, it stands for Organic Materials Review Institute, and they're nonprofit, and they put stamps on inputs that growers use. Our horticulturalists that grow our products, and they are horticulturalists, they're degreed people. They will only buy OMRI certified inputs. Does that make us, USDA stamped organic? No. There's a lot of other things that go into the organic grow process, but virtually every input we use is OMRI certified. So I mean, that's how. It's one way you can be assured. I mean, if your grower's not using OMRI product, is he using a product that has a pesticide in it that you shouldn't be consuming? I mean, that's one place to start. I do have faith in the program. I do think the testing mandate is going to be a good thing. It's going to give patients a certain level of confidence that they hopefully they have in some of us, but they should now have in all of us as an industry. So I feel good about that. I have faith in the testing labs to meet that standard. The people I've mixed with, as we've talked about this, our scientists, the science is their passion. They're going to execute well. I don't believe they have anything but the patient's best interests at heart. And I have faith in the regulator. I hope there's a way with the way the law is written that they get some wherewithal to use their judgment to benefit the patient in the program, because I think if they have that opportunity, they'll make the right decisions.
Who's next? Who are we missing?
Steve.
I would like to first off thank all of you on the panel: Ryan, George, Thomas, Maxine, Sam, Mark, Hope, and Dimitri. You all have been great. George and Hope, it was an absolute pleasure chairing the testing committee with you all. I enjoyed the sucker punches from Hope every couple of weeks on the hand side. They were good. And, one of the things that I'd like to leave the group with is the fact that, they can have the confidence in what Arizona has set forth. We went around the country looking at all the different testing protocols and rules around the country. Steve from AZDHS put them all in, and, our pesticide analysis is some of the most robust pesticide analysis in the country. Potency is potency. Mold and heavy metals, you have nothing to fear about this with what we're looking at in November. This is going to be a really, really great program for all of us. We are really, truly moving the industry forward with this program, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So I want to thank you all for your participation and partnering with us. Cureleaf is really happy to be part of this group, and we're honored to be standing beside all of you. Thank you.
Maxine?
Yeah, no, thank you, everyone. It's been really interesting hearing everybody from the panel speak about, what they're passionate about and what they're doing to move this program forward from different lenses. And so it's been really, really interesting. And thank you, Hope and Dimitri, for moderating and, inviting me to speak. I didn't mean to scare anybody about, whether or not the operators are going to be able to supply the patients with enough medicine. I think we have a lot of MSOs, in the Arizona market. And so I'm not worried about whether or not there's going to be medicine available out there come November 1st. But if you do feel the need for help in terms of consulting on how to move forward with your business and the implementation of this program or a part of it, and you feel like you're struggling, feel free to reach out to us. I'd be more than willing to jump on a consult to Tracy's point and find your to do an analysis on, some of the areas where you could use help in this with this testing program. So thank you, everyone.
And your email's in front of you. Sam?
Yes.
Oh, Sam, you already went? You done? Does anybody else want to close out some words or turn over to Hope? I hope. Let's see.
Thank you very much. I knew that this would be a topic that is a little bit, has everybody a little bit nervous and worried. The one thing that I want to say is, who knows what's going to happen, but what we know for certain is there are rules. And until there are changes, I think it's so critical for everybody to realize if nothing changes, this is happening, right? And so do everything we can to be prepared, and then get as involved as you need to be if you think things need to go a certain way. And that's what I love about these groups and these panels, is so we can have an open, clean dialogue about that. And not everybody's going to agree and not everyone's going to like it, but one thing is certain, government's coming.
Okay, and we're all adults here.
Regulation.
So you don't have to play along, but I've always wanted to do this after all these Zoom calls. Now, while the tune plays, I need everybody to look right, to look left, to look up, to look down.
Lead us.
Yeah.
You see how that works?
This was not said.
That is an Arizona family. This is how we do things in the AZ. So thank you guys for playing along. You guys,
We need a Michael bobblehead.
It was your Brady Bunch thing that you've been trying to do.
See you next time, folks.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
I'm just
Fucking A.